I'm so excited. We've got Marco and Victor, two of the best players in the world. Marco, the defending champion, looking to get that third championship, and Victor coming into this tournament as #1 in championship points in the world. These are truly two of the best, and I just really am eager to see how they're going to approach this match.
Either winner here is going to create history for themselves. It would be so amazing to see Marco be able to get the first 3-time international championship glory, and for Victor, he's been so close to being able to achieve that greatness, and he is just one step away.
One step away, but there's a lot of tough Pokemon that he's got to face in order to claim that title. We've got that Jumpluff and, of course, that Charizard on the opposing side. We've got a Weather War here in the finals. Sun on one side, Rain on the other. Both trainers having Ursaluna on their compositions as well. And these players have had a lot of time to think about how they want to go about this match.
As we take a look at Marco's team, though, one of the key things that really sticks out outside of the fact that you do have this Sun is the fact that you have some really impactful offensive threats. We're looking at that Charizard, Torkoal, Jumpluff, Ursaluna. All 4 of them are really big hitters in their own right.
This team is really flexible, and Marco is so incredible at piloting it. Some leads that you'll want to pay attention to potentially in this matchup include Charizard and Jumpluff having a lot of pressive damage immediately. You've got that Sunny Day on Jumpluff, which can override Pelipper if it switches in and tries to set up the Rain. You've also got Incineroar and Porygon 2 as another lead combination. Part of what makes this team so deadly is you can just start attacking immediately with Charizard, or you can angle to set up Trick Room and play a slower mode, bring out that Ursaluna, and deal massive amounts of damage. So I think Marco has a lot of tools with this team, and it's going to be really difficult for Victor to figure out what lead do I think Marco will commit to.
And that's where Victor has this puzzle that he has to be able to play around as well, because you take a look at the Sun, and one of the best counters we've seen historically in VGC has been Rain. So is that something that you think that Victor could rely upon comfortably with something like the Pelipper and the Archaludon?
Yeah, Pelipper here is going to be, I think, a key Pokemon. You're going to want to have it in this matchup because 1, of course, it can change the weather, and 2, it can resist those fire-type attacks from Charizard. If you look at Victor's team, there are not that many Pokemon that can reliably take those heat waves. Dragonite is another really key Pokemon with that multi-scale, of course, being able to tank fire-type attacks and also threaten damage with that scale shot. Victor's team has the threat of Trick Room, but it also has the threat of Tailwind, and I expect Ursaluna and Golden Gold to be big players in this matchup as well. Archaludon and Sinistcha, I think, are really hard to come out in this matchup because of the Charizard from the opposing side. I can see niche use cases for them, so that's not to say that I don't think you bring them at all, but if you are bringing them, you got to get mileage out of them because they can go down very quickly.
Both of these trainers do have an Ursaluna, so those speed interactions are going to be very interesting to keep an eye on if both of them decide to bring this Ursaluna. But we are ready to get into this very first game of the Masters Finals of the 2025 Latin America International Championships, and one best of 3 is going to separate both of these trainers from reaching that championship title. Let's get into it as Victor leads off with the Pelipper and the Dragonite, and for Marco, it's the Jumpluff and the Porygon 2.
I was really eager to see how both players would approach the lead matchups in this one, and I think Pelipper Dragonite is a response to Jumpluff and Torkoal, which I think is Marco's really strong option here, but it's actually a different lead with the Jumpluff and Porygon 2. Porygon 2 right now in a really good spot to deal a lot of damage with Ice Beam and Terra Blast. Jumpluff here pressures with Sleep Powder. This is a key Pokemon in this matchup. It's able to outpace everything and put things to sleep, and the first Sleep Powder of the set will connect.
It's going to connect onto that Pelipper, so it is going to have to delay some of its offensive pressure that it would like to do with something like that Weather Ball, or even be able to get this set up. As the Dragonite on Victor's end tries to go all out with this Scale Shot, it's able to connect for the Jumpluff. Even though it's going to be 4 or 5 hits, it's not going to be enough to knock it out right now.
Really impressive defensive training there. Jumpluff surviving all 5 hits. This is a really valuable Pokemon in this matchup, and now Dragonite critically gets that speed boost. Pelipper will take that first turn of sleep.
And that leaves this Porygon 2 to be able to go for this Ice Beam. This Dragonite hasn't taken any damage yet, and so it has its multi-scale intact, but that's the power of a 4-time super effective hit, even with the multi-scale.
Almost just gets that one-hit knockout, so powerful, and Marco now has the option, as you can see, to potentially set up Tailwind. Dragonite, of course, has that speed boost, though, so you, of course, can just go for another Scale Shot. Porygon 2 right now, though, still sitting very healthy, putting on a lot of offensive pressure. You can see Marco looking like he's trying to consider changing the weather, probably expects Jumpluff to faint here, but saying, you know what, if you actually Scale Shot into the Porygon, I'll be able to make your Pelipper's damage output reduced, and your Hurricanes, of course, a lot more inaccurate.
So what happens next with this jump left, though? I think you've gotten a lot of mileage out of it already, being able to have that defensive capability to deal with the scale shot, but you also have to figure out what's going to be in the back here for Victor. As we see this Pelipper not even try to wake up this turn, it's going to be the Archaludon that comes out on the field in its stead. Jump left doesn't get to do anything else this game as the scale shot connects onto it, and it does get knocked out on this turn.
Archaludon does make an appearance here, and by conserving that Pelipper, of course, even if there's that threat of Charizard in the back, you can always bring the Pelipper back in, and Charizard in the rain does not really do that much damage. So you can see Victor realize, okay, if I set up Archaludon properly and get it in the right place, it can actually be a huge threat. Dragonite is going to get traded right now, but it is very even at this current point.
Dragonite was supposed to be a big source of damage for Victor, though, so it does feel a little bit bad to have to lose that piece so early, but Victor is going to be able to focus a lot of his game plan into this Archaludon, especially knowing that you do have some really nice resistances to something like this Charizard.
Yeah, I like the prioritization of getting rid of Jumpluff. I think Jumpluff is just a huge threat in this matchup, even though it doesn't deal damage. Being able to put everything to sleep and change the weather via sunny day is huge. So Charizard does hit the field, and okay, we're looking at the hover here, potentially trying to just get a huge knockout weather ball here. You can switch into Torkoal, of course, change the weather. You have the option of overheat as well, but I think critically with Jumpluff fainting and Victor still having that Pelipper in the back, this can be fairly tricky.
It's a little tough, though, because this Ursaluna hitting the field is Victor's fourth and final for this first game. It doesn't have the guts activated quite yet, and that means you're looking at Headlong Rush, Earthquake, both not going to be able to connect onto something like this Charizard. Leaves it a little bit vulnerable, and at the very least impacts the amount of damage it can do on this next turn.
Yeah, critically, the Porygon is going to switch here into Torkoal, so the Sun now is set up. There's no defensive Terra on either of these Pokemon, so of course, Fire-type attack will do a ton of damage.
Yeah, this Archaludon is going to hope that this Assault Vest is going to be enough to be able to withstand some of the onslaught of damage from this Charizard. But take a look at the Weather Ball as a same type attack bonus in the sun. It's just going to knock out that Archaludon in one go.
This is my point about why I thought Archaludon is a tough Pokemon to bring into this matchup. Marco positions the Charizard perfectly. You do now bring out the Pelipper. It will, of course, change the weather. The rain will be set up. You can still Weather Ball, actually, into the Ursaluna, so you might have to see a Terra at this point.
That Terra on the Ursaluna is going to be a Ghost type, so it does get rid of that super effective weakness you're going to have to a Water type Weather Ball, but you're still going to leave yourself taking neutral damage from everything else.
Yeah, and Torkoal is interesting here because it actually doesn't really do that much damage, but Pelipper is asleep, so right now the question is, can Ursaluna get enough mileage these next couple of turns and actually deal enough? Helping Hand Weather Ball here is really safe. The question, though, is with that Terra committed on Ursaluna, will you be able to survive the turn? I would expect it to survive, and then the question is, can Porygon 2 and Torkoal finish off the game?
Pelipper also needs to get this turn 1 wake up. It's already taken a mandatory turn of sleep, so it has the opportunity to actually wake up on this turn, but we see the Terastallization committed into this Ursaluna. This Ghost Terra has to do wonders for Victor in this first game if he wants to have hope of winning it to kick off this series.
All right, Helping Hand here. Weather Ball in the rain from a Charizard into Ursaluna. How much damage will this do?
Still gonna do a lot. It's still a Charizard with a pretty good special attack, and it's just a one hit. No way, this Ursaluna. Victor hasn't been able to do anything with 2 Pokemon already.
Charizard with that Weather Ball, that's one way to get around the variance. But okay, there is the Wake Up. Muddy Water comes out. It is going to view super effective damage and get the double knockout, but there's Porygon in the back still.
Porygon in the back, but that's a huge double KO here for Victor. This was such an explosive turn. We saw 3 Pokemon knockouts back to back to back. It comes down to a 1v1 though at the end of this first game. Porygon 2 with this Eviolite, bigger defense buffs than this Pelipper is going to have with the Focus Sash.
Porygon is in a phenomenal spot. Right now, you really want to avoid, however, getting hit by the Hurricane and then having Hurricane confuse you and then hit by Confusion. Marco actually lost the last regional championship finals he played in to Hurricane hitting and then confusing him into a hit. So will we see Hurricane confuse right now is the question.
This Porygon 2 also just got a special attack boost, so that's going to feel really nice with that download paying off dividends. This Porygon 2 can set up the Trick Room though, get the speed in its favor, and then play around the Hurricane. Hurricane's going to connect onto the Porygon 2, but does it get the confusion? It does not, so Porygon 2 gets to set up that Trick Room.
And now it's in such a comfortable position, able to attack first, threatens with Terra Blast, which I think 2 probably just knock out the Pelipper. You can heal back from recover as well. So the odds are overwhelmingly in Marco's favor right now.
That's going to be almost a one-hit knockout again here if it were not for that focus dash. Regardless, with the Hurricane, we are not going to see this confusion either. So in Trick Room, Marco is just one more Pokemon move away from getting the knockout onto the Pelipper and winning this first game.
Pelipper opting to protect here, trying to stall out, of course, those Trick Room turns. Also gives Victor some time to think about how he wants to approach the next game. I think Porygon Jump Bluff, maybe a lead that Victor wasn't fully expecting. I think Charizard plus the Jump Bluff is one of the go-to leads. And so I really, really like the decision there. No double protect from the Pelipper, and Marco's going to take this first game.
The final Terra Blast into the Pelipper. What a start here for our Masters Finals at the Latin America International Championships. That was so fast.
The fact that it was Weather Ball Charizard getting those two knockouts, rather like something from the Heat Wave or the Overheat. One of the scariest things about utilizing Marco's team is Sleep Powder can miss, the Heat Wave can miss, the Overheat can miss, but Weather Ball, it won't miss, right? And so really great decision to go for those Weather Balls, finds the perfect positioning to just knock out that Archaludon, and then Helping Hand Weather Ball one-shotting Ursaluna. That's such a rare interaction, but so much heavy offense here from Marco's end. And so the question is, if you're Victor, how do you adjust? Porygon plus Jump Bluff is a scary lead, but you know what's actually pretty good into that? Golden Go.
Golden Go did not get a chance to actually make an appearance, and you know that with something like the Choice Scarf, you are going to be one of the fastest things on the field, unless we see this Tailwind get set up, or the Trick Room that Marco has liked to rely upon in so many of these tournament matches. I would love to see if Golden Go might be the option there, especially because you've got Good as Gold. It's going to make sure you can't get spored either.
Exactly, yeah. I think that's so critical in this matchup because Jump Bluff is a huge nuisance Pokemon. You don't have very many ways to protect yourself from being put to sleep, and so Golden Go here I think could be an interesting adjustment. Archaludon came out in that last matchup, but it just got absolutely destroyed, right? And so if you want to bring the Archaludon out, you need to make sure you time things properly and let the rain is up when you're facing off against Charizard. But Marco finds that snipe and just is able to get the knockout onto the Archaludon without Pelipper being able to change the weather.
Well, as we get ready for the second game, Marco Silva is one game away from making history as a 3-time international champion. Victor needs to win this game in order to keep his dreams alive of finally winning a major champion title. Let's see what this game has in store, Aaron. I cannot wait to see the adjustments.
Yeah, is there a Golden Goal in the lead is my very first question. And the answer is going to be no. It's going to be Double Dragons in the Archaludon Dragonite. We've got an adjustment here as well. No Porygon 2. It's Incineroar brought out instead.
Okay, so the Incineroar is going to be able to get an Intimidate drop onto this Dragonite because it's multi-scale. Kind of nice to be able to know that you can keep this Dragonite's damage in check, but this Jump Bluff still has a lot of wiggle room here.
You can see the hover for the Ghost Terra. The reason for this is we know there is the Fighting Terra Archaludon on the opposing side, so you don't want to get sniped off by something like Fighting Terra plus the Body Press. Incineroar is a really good defensive piece in this matchup, and once you go for that Terra, Archaludon really struggles to deal significant damage to the Incineroar.
Well, as we get them ready for this first turn of the game, we get a chance to see how critical these decisions are going to be. As the Terrestrialization does end up getting invested onto this first turn, we're going to see that Incineroar become that Ghost type.
So one of the questions here is, can Victor do a lot of damage this turn? Because like you called out, with that Intimidate, Dragonite's honestly fairly weak. We saw even without the Intimidate skill shots not knocking out the Jump Bluff, and Sleep Powder connects once again.
This is another turn one where Marco is going to be able to get that Sleep onto another Pokemon, removing its offensive capabilities immediately. So even if that doesn't matter, the Body Press isn't going to do anything either. And Marco feels like he's so far ahead now, especially after this Parting Shot is going to allow this Incineroar to pivot out again.
Oh, just one step ahead here. I wonder if Dragonite was actually considering going for the self-target skill shot to increase your defense and then just get these really strong body presses off immediately. So Marco does commit his Terra, but the Dragonite now, of course, is really weakened. The Archaludon doesn't have any stamina boosts yet, and now you can launch the Sleep Powder into the Archaludon slot. And so I think a lot of this matchup is, are you able to connect on your moves? Marco did a really good job of avoiding clicking Heat Wave and Overheat with Charizard in that first game, but Jump Bluff variants with Sleep Powder can really, really be dicey.
We are going to get a preview, though, that there actually is no Torkoal in this second game. So Marco very comfortable with the opportunity for this Jump Bluff to go for something like the Sunny Day manually instead. And so this is going to be a very difficult turn. A lot of variants could be involved with these Heat Waves.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of damage coming out right now, though. There is not very much defense on the opposing side, and Dragonite's really weakened as well, so even if it gets that wake up, your skill shot is not knocking out Charizard, which is normally what you're hoping for. So our Chaladon just in a really tough spot right now. If you switch in the Pelipper, well then Sunny Day overrides it, so Victor can't really switch it in. Here we go. Do the Heat Waves connect?
Heat Wave is going to connect onto both of these Pokemon, and so our Chaladon does survive with this Assault Vest. Better off this time around than with the Weather Ball, and the multi-scale from this Dragonite able to help it out here as well, but it stays asleep. Our Chaladon does connect the Snarl onto both of these Pokemon, the special attack drop mattering for the Charizard as the Covert Cloak keeps this Jumpluff safe.
Heat Wave still just so strong though. You've broken the multi-scale on the Dragonite. Dragonite stayed asleep and Heat Wave was able to connect. So that turn basically went as perfectly as Marco could ask for. So this is the threat of Charizard in this matchup. Marco finds a really nice way to get it out, committing that Ghost Terra early, and Charizard is so well positioned, and this is what makes it so hard. If there wasn't Sunny Day on Jumpluff, okay, you can just bring out the Pelipper and change the weather, but there is Sunny Day here, right? So what can even Victor do? He's not going to protect, he's not going to switch out, so now the question is, do the Heat Waves connect once again?
The Tailwind is going to make sure that this Charizard can connect these Heat Waves, picking up the knockout onto their Chaladon, but the Dragonite is still going to stay up in this game number 2. It's still asleep though, so another turn wasted for this Dragonite.
Victor is just getting really crushed by the pressure of Jumpluff plus the Charizard. The most he can hope for from those last couple of turns were maybe some misses or wake up with that Dragonite. But Marco did a really good job saying, look, even if you wake up, well, I've been able to drop your attack a good bit. And so you can just Sunny Day now once again. And yeah, just keep clicking Heat Wave. Like, yes, you've eaten up the Snarl, but Solar Power is still doing so much damage. There's not very much bulk on the opposing side. Pelipper's still going to take a good amount of damage. So what do you do right now if you're Victor? Maybe you try to protect the Dragonite. There's no protect though, so Sunny Day comes out. If Heat Wave connects, Dragonite might just faint here.
You have to hope for a miss at this point, and there is not. This Dragonite gets knocked out, and the Pelipper takes an incredible amount of damage as it switches in for the first time in this game. It goes for the Muddy Water too, but there's going to be a miss onto the Charizard, which is so critical. This Charizard gets a chance to have another turn in the sun.
Yeah, there's just really nothing Victor can do. So much of the strength of this team is positioned. It's Ursaluna as the last one, but there's no weather anymore that you can control on your side. Charizard just free to launch another Heat Wave. Incineroar can come in freely, and this was just pure dominance by Marco Silva in this second game, starting from turn 1. It felt like there was just nothing Victor could do.
Victor has been absolutely squashed and squandered at every opportunity. Marco has thought about this matchup so much. Maybe there's an opportunity for something like a Heat Wave miss. You can see Victor really thinking about whether or not there's actually a way to get back into this game.
Yeah, and it'll start with the Intimidate here, but it's just so tough. The Charizard's still doing so much damage, and Marco's still got that 4 Pokemon in the back, so I don't want to call it too early, but I just don't really see a path to a comeback here at this point.
Maybe a couple of crits is the way. You still have an opportunity to stall out these turns of Tailwind, and there still could be Heat Wave misses. You've got the Ursaluna going for the Protect, so that is going to be a Heat Wave that does not connect its mark, but it does pick up the KO onto the Pelipper, and Victor is down to just this Ursaluna left in the second game, and Marco is so close to being able to clinch this victory.
No Mega Evolutions, no Dynamax, no Gigantamax, but it's no problem for this Charizard, as it is the absolute key in winning this matchup. Jumpluff supporting it so incredibly well here, and Marco is just a turn or 2 away from securing this championship.
We are going to see the Terrestrialization committed into this Ursaluna, though. Just another way that you can make sure that you're going to not be able to get faked out. It's going to be a nice way to see if this Ursaluna can actually do any damage on this next turn.
The Ghost Terra here will help around a fake out, but it's just Heat Wave, single target connects, and that's it.
It's just a one-hit knockout. Heavy is the crown as Marco Silva defends his LAIC title and makes history as the first 3-time international champion in the Masters division.
How many knockouts did Charizard get in that finals?
Charizard is the MVP. I think it got 8. It just got 8 in my book.
That was literally like the most dominant set I think I've ever seen a regular Charizard have in any game ever. And